Welcome back, everybody, to the XCAA Selection Sunday Show, or Monday Show, broadcasted live on the GG9 network, as we can't wait to get into this part 2 of the Selection Sunday. Now, yesterday we talked about we introduced the Selection Sunday to you guys, and we revealed the Midwest, and today we're going to reveal the South. I am joined by my very special co-host who was with me last time, former Division 3 basketball player. Please welcome Neal Neal.
Yes, sir.
How's it going, Neal? How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm glad to be here. It's gonna be a good time. The South region has my favorite team, Virginia Tech, as the #1 seed, and I'm hoping we get an easy ride here. But this tournament is going to be wild. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely, and if you don't know, Neal is the creator of Malachi Hendricks, so that's why he's got a bit of a bias to VA Tech. Are you excited who your competition is tonight, Neal?
Yeah, I mean, Malachi will definitely be keeping a close eye, and also I will too. I want to see if Virginia Tech can get it done. I mean, we got so close last year, and we ran into the monster that Apollo St. Patrick was last season. So it's hopefully Marcus can pull it through this year.
Well, there's nothing really to discuss. Of course, yesterday, we talked about the bubble teams. There's nothing really to talk about, so let's jump into it, okay?
Yeah, I'm with it, man. I mean, let's see who's up first.
That is very interesting. Can you talk about Xavier for me, Neal?
So, Xavier, I believe they're one of the most underrated teams in this tournament because they were actually very impressive, but kind of overshadowed by Creighton, right? Because Creighton has been that big monster, that big juggernaut in the Big East. So they just thought of Creighton as just being insanely good and no one else really being competitive there. But Xavier is a very, very good team. Sophomore power forward Rennie Ryder really took a big leap this year, and I'm actually not surprised that he was that he was up for Big East Player of the Year alongside Apollo Steele and Isaiah Nikos at Creighton, even though Steele ended up winning in the end. Along with Ryder, another guy at Xavier, that I thought would take the lead was senior small shooting guard DeMarcus Stewart. He was very good in close game situations. He's a clutch shooter, but besides that, he hasn't really made too much progression in his previous years. So he'll probably be good in the EuroLeague, maybe not much XBA type of potential, but he's a baller, and that experience is going to come in handy in this tournament. So I'm very intrigued to see how they'll do, especially if they actually end up going against Virginia Tech, because they do have the talent to compete. But at the same time, Texas is a very good team as well. So, Port, do you mind? Do you care to explain them a little bit?
Well, Neal, I think Texas is really talented. Let me talk about their players before the team performances. Fabian Verder, a quick shout out to that Panda YT who made this, very good community member. Fabian Verder's always got this comeback kid, this little kid mentality, and as a senior, he's in the undrafted range, but you never know with Fabian Verder. He always performs on the big stage. I think he could perform here on March Mayhem, but such a good kid. I've met with him a couple times when I was commentating some Texas games. Just such a good kid to hang out with, and another good kid to hang out with, but maybe a bit worse, is Jacob Newton. He's a freshman, 4-star, hasn't really performed on the shooting level wise, maybe even as a rebounding wise, as a small forward as well. He's really been a liability for Texas. He hopefully needs to step up as a big factor in this tournament. Otherwise, I might call him a bust like many others are calling him. Larry Singh, the power forward senior, Singh is an amazing player when he is hot. When he is cold, he loses you games, and that's really you can all say about Larry Singh. Now, to talk about Texas, they've struggled this year because all these three players don't really mesh well. Now, they lost heavily against Oklahoma in, I believe, 2 rivalry games, and they had a very early exit in the quarterfinals, the Big 12, Big 10, sorry, quarterfinals against Kansas State. So, you know, it's going to be a struggle for this team to overcome Xavier. You know, I have high hopes for Xavier, but maybe Texas can show us, you know, why they deserve to be in this tournament after all.
Yes, Port. Whoever wins this matchup between Xavier or Texas, they're gonna provide some type of challenge to Virginia Tech in the next round. But I mean, I must say, Virginia Tech is a juggernaut, and I don't think either of these teams are going to be able to give them too much of a problem. But we'll see.
Well, it is time to check out the next matchup, and number 4 versus number 13. Neal, one of Neal's favorite players. Can you tell us more about USC?
Another Cali school. Got to represent my hometown over here on the West Coast. Over here, but Jamal Turner is the guy that I want to talk about. He is a premier freshman, one of the top recruits in the country, 5-star 2-guard, and has been fantastic player for them this year. His floor at the XBA level is going to be a 3-and-D type of baller because he has a fantastic jumper, and even in the East versus West All-Star games and different types of games that he's played in across the season, he's just been fantastic defensively. He gets his hands on different balls, and he is just able to do it on both ends, which is fantastic. So USC was great most of the year, and they could have been a number 1 seed if not to an early exit against Pac-12 foe Washington in the quarterfinals, who was actually rated a lot lower than them, and it was a big upset. No one expected them to go out that early. However, it kind of makes sense because while Jamal Turner has been playing fantastic, he also has some nagging hand injuries recently, and it's been kind of lingering throughout the kind of the end of the Pac-12 regular season and into the conference tournament, and it had a major impact in that quarterfinal game against Washington. And along with that, Turner does have some pretty talented teammates in John Goodwin, a senior small forward who's a shooter and can knock down shots from anywhere, as well as a power forward in Nicholas Garena, a sophomore, who can make plays and is just kind of that all-around kind of player, but they just haven't been playing well. And with Turner struggling, USC might actually be on upset alert this year.
Yeah, well, let's talk about maybe my favorite team to really upset any big school, and that's, of course, Stetson. Let's talk about Stetson now. They kind of dominated the ASUN this year with Matthew Gardens, the point guard senior. He was really good this year. I believe the assist leader in the conference as a whole, and Jeremiah Goodman, who is the point leader in the ASUN conference. And you know, those two guys, very good duo. Let me tell you one thing about them though. They can shoot free. They can shoot free. They can shoot free. They have the ability to shoot free, and that's why many people have them as the upset team of the tournament. I'm kind of disagreeing with the committee here. You know, why are you putting this team at number 13? I think they're at number 10 in my opinion, but I think they could upset USC here. Obviously, Turner's nagging hand injuries. We'll see if that sidelines him a game in March Madness. Maybe so, maybe not.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think he's gonna play. He's a tough guy, but we'll see. We'll see if it's gonna have an impact. And like you said, Stetson was dominant in the ASUN all year. And these four first 13 games are very, very tricky sometimes in recent tournaments, man. I've seen a lot of 13 seeds make upsets and even make Sweet 16 runs at times. So maybe Stetson can put the world on notice this year and make a run and represent the ASUN well.
Done with that. To move on to our next matchup, it is number 5 versus 12. Okay. And okay, really? Okay. Michigan State, obviously Goldie hates this team a lot. Can you tell us, Neal, what they're all about this year?
Yes, Port. We know how much Gold is not a fan of Michigan State, but they are a very, very good team. And they're led by Dennis Pavard, a big 7'1" defensive monster, shades of Ben Wallace and Dikembe Mutombo, something like that type of deal. 7'1", 265, and he's a beast. Last year, as a freshman, he was making waves and was projected to be a draft pick in the XBA draft, actually, before he got hurt in December, and it actually ended his season. It was a knee injury, so he ended up falling down the draft boards quickly and didn't declare. But he is legit, all right? He balls out. He protects that rim. Think about, like I said Ben Wallace, Dikembe Mutombo, but if you're thinking more recent, even like a Rudy Gobert type of player that really just protects the rim, rebounds, and is just someone that you can just have to anchor your defense on a consistent basis. Alongside him, though, Michigan State is loaded and experienced, very typical for them, right? But they're alongside Pavard, there's Will Botwinski, who is a scorer. He's probably going to be a forward at the next level, but he plays the two for them. They're a very big team. And alongside that, they have Diego Cartagena, who is more like a defensive, all-around, maybe Scottie Pippen type of player. And then lastly, Andrew Stevens, another big man. I think he's around 7 feet as well, a junior, but he complements Pavard very well because he's more of a shooter, kind of that wants to hang out and play that stretch four kind of role, but he can also bang a little bit. So they're a very formidable team, and they should be dominant at the next level in this tournament. But they did lose to Michigan in the Big Ten championship. I know Gold must have got a kick out of that, but. So while they are very good, they're coming off a loss. And Michigan's very good themselves, but if they can't win the conference tournament, maybe they're not ready to make that deep run in the national tournament. But I believe in them. They're very experienced, and they're going to make a run if Tom Izzo and the rest of that Michigan State team has anything to say about it.
Georgia Tech, let me tell you about Georgia Tech. The most boring team maybe in this March Madness. I mean, yeah, Reese Lowe is kind of projected in that second round, maybe not. But Zay McIntosh, he was a freshman, and I'm sorry to him, but like, I can't like Georgia Tech. Their ACC form was just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. And they quickly got out of the ACC tournament. I don't even know who they got out to. You know, let me tell you this. I'm a fan of Michigan State. I like everything about Michigan State. I hate Georgia Tech, and I'm sorry to all the Georgia Tech fans out there, but they are the most boring team in this tournament, and I am so angry at the committee for really including this team, as I think it's a disgrace to the March Mayhem name.
Wow. Whoa, man. I mean, tell us how you feel. I mean, I see.
Sometimes Australians have to go hard. Sometimes. But
I mean, well, maybe they might give Michigan State a run. I mean, we'll see what happens. But we'll see if what you said might motivate them. Might give them that bulletin board material to play hard in that first round. We'll see what happens.
Even you said Navy. Even nobody remembers Georgia Tech. Neal just said Navy. This is why nobody cares about Georgia Tech. If they win the national championship, anyways, we've got number 2 versus number 15. So basically the second best. Oh my God! Whoa! Oh my! Okay, the committee has been forgiven by me. What a 2 seed to have. Neal, can you talk about Creighton real quick? Oh my God.
This is a shock. Look, I thought Creighton would be a number 1 seed for sure. I can't believe this. They're a number 2 seed. Look, Creighton has been dominant. They are a fantastic team. They're loaded, absolutely loaded. They were dominant in the Big East this year, nearly going undefeated, and wound up winning the whole thing. Isaiah Nikos, is a forward that's going to be expected to go in the top 10 in the XBA, and he's a baller alongside a 7'4" 2-4 Apollo Steel.
It's the Empire State Building.
Yes, definitely. He's a tower, and he has a great name, and he plays as hard as Steel. He's a baller, and he might be the best defensive player in the country. I know we just talked about Dennis Pavard from Michigan State, but Apollo Steel might be even better on that end of the floor. Alongside of this, everyone talks about those two forwards and those two big men for Creighton, but the guy to watch and the sneaky player is Bernard Colvin, who is the point guard for Creighton and has been an X factor for them in these big games throughout the year. From top to bottom, yes, I said they won the Big East tournament, but even at the beginning of the year, they won the Maui Invitational Tournament, where they had amazing comebacks against Oklahoma and won the championship against Notre Dame, sometimes getting called the comeback kids throughout the year. So they are going to be a fantastic team, and they're going to make a run, all right? Alongside this, they're in the South region, right? Alongside Virginia Tech, which is going to add an interesting little subplot here, as there's been some beef with Virginia Tech, as Isaiah Nikos and Marcus Anthony have kind of fired some shots back and forth on Twitter. We know Virginia Tech is not... They don't really stop their players from posting on social media. We all saw what happened with Rakeem Savage and Sobchak last year, with their whole little beef. But it didn't really stop Virginia Tech from making their run. But we'll see if this turns into something a little bit bigger. And if Creighton and Virginia Tech end up playing, oh my gosh, that would be a heck of a game.
Well, I'm going to talk about the 15s here in Northeastern. They were a very good team in the CAA, and they made the conference tournament, of course, as a high seed. They kept going and then just going and going until they made the championship game. They almost beat Yale. Which, very, very good team that we'll probably see sooner rather than later. But they lost in a heartbreaker when Bobby Brandon just gave up the ball in the final seconds, and Yale ran up the court. Nobody fouled, and that was the game. I've got to give credit to Bobby Brandon on his performances. He is a great player when he is just by himself and can ISO somebody out. But I'm going to go heel here like Vince McMahon. Is Bobby Brandon really trusted in close game situations? We've seen that issue come time and again, and sometimes he can get cold, and that's going to be the real big thing for Creighton. They need to lock down Bobby Brandon a bit, and if they do, they'll likely win that game by ease. That's really all I got to say about Northeast, and just that's it.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Brandon, he's a baller. Creighton's a powerhouse. I wouldn't pick Northeastern, but crazier things have happened, right?
Definitely. And we'll move on to the next one, which is 7 versus 10. Okay. Here we go, and whoa! Okay. We got the defending national champions and Ohio State. Speaking of Ohio State, can you tell us about their interesting story this year, Neal?
Yes. Ohio State. This was not a great year for them, honestly. They were just okay. They could have been so much more. I think they're a very good team, but they just didn't really do much, honestly, throughout the year. They struggled. They lost against Michigan State in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament, who is a big player. A big team. Of course, they're a fantastic team. We talked about them a little bit earlier. But they didn't really stand out. No really huge wins. But they were just solid. And they do have a senior point guard in Kyron LaMcCain. Oh my gosh, that's a tough name. I think he's from Nepal.
Nepal.
Which is crazy, and he's extremely clutch. So something to watch out for. So if he gets an opportunity late in the games, maybe he can make some plays for them, and the Buckeyes can have a better tournament run than their regular season has been most of the year.
Yeah, and I'll talk about Syracuse here.
Yes.
They're very lucky to really get in this tournament, even though they're defending national champions. That's a hard thing to say. They've just fallen down a cliff, but let me explain. Carter Anders, point guard, he was the replacement for ASP, and to be honest, he wasn't really the guy that Syracuse expected, but he wasn't supposed to be their main player. Artie St. Patrick, the younger brother of ASP, was out for the entire year. He's a freshman. He just came and just got injured, unluckily, in training. He was out until a couple of days ago, where we had some breaking news from Syracuse where he was cleared for March Madness. We'll see how much that plays in effect. He's a great player. I've seen his high school tape. Really, really good player. Played for ASP, his brother for a bit. But very lucky to get on here, especially with their poor ACC tournament run. This is why they were a bubble team. They lost to Wake Forest in the first round. Wake Forest is likely not going to make March, and maybe not even the NIT. That's how bad they did. And that's really all I got to say about Syracuse. They're defending national champions. I don't think they're going to do it this year. It would have to take another miracle for them to really win it like last year. One more thing to mention is that 3 of the 5 teams have been drawn, the bubble teams. I'm just going to say there's only 2 left. 2 bubble teams are left. We'll see who those 2 are in time.
Yeah, really quick. Before we move on, I also want to point out for Ohio State, on Ohio State's behalf, they do have a couple late second round projected players in Orlando Curtis and Brownie Baker that can be X factors on the wings for them. So they might make the difference against the Syracuse team. There's a reason why they're the higher seed, but Syracuse, like we all saw last year, cannot be counted out. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely, and we'll go on to the next matchup, number 3 versus number 14, and it will be, oh my goodness, oh my, everyone knows this, Virginia versus UMBC.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Neal, can you talk about the history just a tiny bit, and also Virginia?
Yes. Virginia versus UMBC. For those that don't remember, for a couple years ago, back in 2018, UMBC was, I believe, a 16 seed, and they beat Virginia as the number 1 seed. It was the first time a number 16 seed has beaten a number 1 seed in the history of the formerly March Madness, now March Mayhem. So it was a crazy victory. I remember watching it live on my TV and was just going crazy. We couldn't believe that it was possible. For them to be able to meet again a couple years later is going to be very interesting. So we're gonna see what happens. It's gonna be cool. They are a good team. Virginia is always dominant. I mean, they're just always just very consistent, led by Tony Bennett. You know how he coaches. It's just very, very balanced play. Everyone can just defend and they score like as a team, and it's just very hard to beat. But they did end up losing to Virginia Tech in the conference championship. I did watch that game. I was very happy. But they are hoping Virginia Tech, now that they're in this South region, because they did actually get a chance, and they did beat them earlier in the year, but they ended up losing in the conference title. Will Carr, the small forward, is a junior, as well as junior center Brandon Pierce are the main contributors for this team, and they're going to try to carry Virginia deep into this tournament run. And they're a sleeper, honestly. I think that Virginia is one of those teams that always gets slept on because they're not very flashy, right? Or they're not very very high pace or anything of that nature, but they're just always very, very good. And they're going to be motivated this year now that they got a chance to get some revenge on UMBC. So
well, yeah,
can you talk about them?
Yeah, well, Virginia, obviously, I'll just take a bit. Virginia, of course, they're in the same bracket as Virginia Tech. I think you missed 2 players, Neal. Can you talk about those 2 players? Because I think they're pretty good as well.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, Virginia's loaded. I guess I should have mentioned everybody. They also have in the backcourt, they have Gilbert Cooper, at the point guard position, and then as well as a stud freshman in Aiden Braun, who are both just fantastic players and are going to be able to make plays all throughout the tournament. Those 4 are the pretty much the main ballers for them. But the guy I would say definitely to watch out for out of that 4 though is still Will Price. he is a baller. I'm a big fan of his, and I think he's gonna pull out. I mean, Will Carr.
You caught that last second, but I'm going to talk about UMBC now. Now, obviously, their most famous win, their most, I mean, yeah, we've already talked about it. Number one. Let me tell you, Virginia, not only were they a number 1 seed, they were number 1. The number 1 team in 2018, and they lost UMBC.
That's true.
It's
That's
just
very
amazing.
true.
Now, a couple years after, they didn't make the tournament, they kept losing in the American East. Finally, they've had this year where some of the, couple of the guys that maybe were intrigued by that Virginia win have come through, and that's, of course, the 2 players in senior point guard Hunter Brown and senior shooting guard Javarion Smith, and they've both been really good this year, and that's why they've really won the American East. Their mobility, their shooting ability, just everything about them is so good. Now we'll see if it can translate to a bigger level in Virginia, but we've seen it before. We'll see if it happens again, and I'm just so excited. This might be better than Duke versus UNLV from the last region, and this might be the best matchup of the whole tournament in round 1 at least.
Wow, you really think so?
I definitely think so, Neal. We're going to go to the last bracket, matchup, and it's gonna be 6 versus 11.
Okay, let's get it over with. Let's see who we got.
And it is okay. That's actually pretty good. That's pretty good.
Huh.
Interesting.
Big Ten matchup, huh?
Yeah, I would. Big Ten matchup. Can you tell us about the Badgers? What have they done this year? I don't think you think of Wisconsin and basketball. What's happened to them this year?
Yes. So Wisconsin. So similar to Virginia, they're kind of known as this very just solid program, right? Just very, very consistent. They normally make the tournament every year. Just very, very good at developing players. They're not going to get the big 5-star recruits, but they're going to develop players, and eventually these players become something, right? Where they think about Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker, and all these different players in the past that have just been able. Huh? Sorry, say that again.
2015 squad, was it?
Yeah, I think that was the year, right? And they kind of made a really deep run, right? Did they win?
Yeah.
They might have won, actually. I'm not sure.
I think they lost. I don't know.
Whatever, but they were extremely very good that year, and it was kind of that veteran team, and that people yes, we knew that Frank the Tank was pretty good, but we didn't expect that, right? And this year, Wisconsin has again made a very big run, and led by seniors, and the leader has been small forward Dylan Bott with 2 T's. He's a senior small forward for them, and he's had a meteoric rise this year because he was an afterthought for basically his whole career at Wisconsin, and was supposed to be coming off the bench this year, but their starting small forward actually tore his ACL, and Dylan Bott took advantage of the opportunity as he has dominated, even getting on some draft boards and on the radar of a lot of XBA teams for a potential second-round pick. But him alongside fellow seniors in the front court, power forward Victor Cassidy and center Riley O'Reilly, have been able to have a really good year for Wisconsin. And while they didn't end up making too big of a splash in the Big Ten tournament, they're looking for revenge in March Madness, and it'll be an interesting matchup with Nebraska because these teams know each other. They were able to see each other a few times in the regular season, so it will be a very heated game against Nebraska. So do you mind telling us a bit about them, Port?
So let me talk about the players of Nebraska. Taylor Stefanski, point guard senior, and Ethan Parker, power forward senior. Now these guys, same recruiting class, and man, they're pick and roll, just pick and roll and pick and roll. Under Fred Hoiberg, these two have flourished since he came in here after he left the Bulls. But let me tell you, I can't talk about the player. I've got to talk about the team. They had a very, very good out of conference. Reason mainly why they're here, they beat teams like Seton Hall and, even Gonzaga. In conference, they kind of slumped a bit. But their only marquee win, which was a pretty big one, was an upset victory at Indiana. Now, they were knocked out by Ohio State in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament, but they still showed promise throughout the year. They could maybe be a Cinderella team in March Madness. And, you know, I'm not surprised they made it here. I don't know why they were a bubble team. They should have been automatic. But with that, there's only one more bubble team, and we're not even, we're half through. So one more bubble team in one of those 2 regions. We'll see who the last one will be out of the remaining 6.
Yes. I think this is going to be a very balanced matchup. I said it before. But I think even looking back, I think they split the season series, right? Both teams ended up winning at home. So seeing them on a neutral floor at the with everything on the line in the winner go home matchup, I think it's going to be a very tight game all the way down to the wire. Must watch stuff. But of course, that's what we're going to have with the XCAA, right?
And with that, folks, we are done with the South region. And with it being the end of the video, it's time to make our picks, Neal. Who do you think will get out of this bracket?
Well, I think the South region is going to be one of the most competitive regions in the whole XCAA tournament, because I believe that there's 3 powerhouse teams. Of course, we know about Virginia Tech and Creighton, but also Virginia is very, very good. I would not sleep on them, and that they were also able to beat Virginia Tech once during the season, so they can compete with that top tier level of competition. However, my pick has to be those Hokies, Virginia Tech. They are the best team in the nation, in my opinion. They have the best player in the nation, in my opinion, in Marcus Anthony, and he is motivated, and they are loaded, and they will be able to make this run and win the South region, in my opinion. But what about you, Port?
Well, I'm on the same kind of level with you, you know. I like Virginia Tech, I like Creighton, I like Virginia. Outside of that, yeah, I like Michigan State a bit. I like, you know, Wisconsin a bit, but I don't think I could really put them in the same level as those 3 teams I just mentioned. With that being said, I won't go with VA Tech. God, this is gonna be hard. I think I'm gonna go Creighton. I think Creighton's gonna do it, and I think Isaiah Nikos, Apollo Steele, and Bernard Colvin. I think they'll do it. You know, although it's only 3, you know, prospects on that team, they're just so elite. I've seen them throughout the regular season, secretly, and you know. Man, they're just such a good team, but Virginia is good. I think I'm going to go Creighton to do it because they just have the talent. I think they could upset Marcus Anthony.
I think that's a good pick, man. I mean, you can't really go wrong. Those are both 2 of the 2 strongest teams. Creighton, should have been a number 1 in a lot of people's eyes. So makes perfect sense. But I think Virginia Tech will take it home, and if they get some matchup, whew, that would be crazy.
And with that, folks, we are done with today's episode. Obviously, tomorrow we will bring you the East region with Tennessee. But that's really all I've got to say. The only thing I have to say is, I forgot to mention this yesterday, is that I want to say a big thank you to Brian Street for the draft class creation. He also did a bit of the bracket. And that's all I have to say, really, you know. That's really it. Neal, you got anything else that you want to add on here?
I want to just thank all the fans, honestly. Everyone that's been supporting and watching the streams and interacting with us throughout. It's very, very awesome. Honestly, truly, we can't thank you guys enough. Me and Port, we hoped that this would be well received when we were putting it together, and it seems that it has been. So we very much thank you guys for your support. And just encourage you guys to continue to stick with us, because these next couple days we're still going to be going through the rest of the regions, and then once this tournament gets rolling, it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And then of course I want to thank Gold for allowing us to participate in this manner and be a part of this. It's awesome.
Thank you once again to Portugal and Khaneal Mason for the South region reveal. Guys, I will catch you tomorrow for the East region, and then on Thursday for the West region. So we are halfway there, guys. We're halfway there, and then we can finally start getting some XBA action back in full swing. Expect XBA action by Friday. It's going to be a trade deadline special video We're going to be showing you guys a couple matchups with the Pick'em contest for week number 9, plus the trades that went through. So those are going to be revealed, and then we'll get into week 9 action. That will be kind of a quicker episode, probably only 3 XBA games on tap for that. I still have yet to make a contest form, so if you guys want a chance at getting another prospect in for year number 3 prospects, so you are seeing the year number 2 prospects. If you guys want a chance to get year number 3 prospects, please play in the contest, the weekly contest. I always post XBA videos on Fridays and Sundays. Make sure that you're going to the community tab, posts, comments, descriptions, wherever you can find me, that I can communicate with you and send links out. And that's your best way. That's your best way in order to try and get in and be a prospect. So if you don't get in for year 3, you can always keep trying, keep playing, and shoot for year number 4. So that's just one way to earn prospects in this series. So guys, thank you to Portugal and Khaneal Mason yet again. And one more time. Thank you to Brian Street for creating these prospects, these 200 prospects. So make sure you guys are shouting them out and thanking them as well. I will see you guys tomorrow for the East region and Thursday for the West region. Leave a like if you like this thing. As always, peace.